Going to start recording. My name is Eric Lickness, and I'm a board member with Brain Drain. And just to let you know the mechanics of the Zoom, we do have our chat window open. Please type any chat questions during the meeting. We do have everyone on mute for the time being as well. We will unmute after the presentation, and you can ask any questions you might have from Thomas. Thanks again for joining, and I'm turning it over to Manus to kick off the meeting.
Yes, good evening. As many of you may or may not know, my name is Manus McLean. I'm one of the co-founders of Brain Drain. We're here to help you find your way to permanent status in the United States. And tonight we're lucky enough to have one of our attorneys. We have two attorneys that are working with us that are excellent attorneys. Thomas Baratich has been at this game for a long time. He's very creative. He's very knowledgeable. I've worked with other attorneys in the past, and I've found none to be better. So, Thomas, I'll let you take over.
All right. So I thought what would be better is to kind of give a baseline presentation on the immigration pathway here in the United States. And I know everybody has a different situation, but if we're all on the same page, then we can maybe ask more meaningful questions. So I'm going to use a PowerPoint slide that I use when I'm presenting these documents or this type of material um, to universities and groups just like yours. Let's go to the next slide. Eric, yeah, thank you. Keep going. So the three government agencies that we're likely to be dealing with are the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, which is USCIS, ICE, that's the enforcement branch, the border, Customs and Border Protection, which is at the airports, and the TSA, which is also at the airports. For visas, we will interact with the U.S. Department of State. That includes their foreign embassies, their consular posts and missions, and the visa processing center here in the United States. And then the U.S. Department of Labor. They have various offices throughout the United States, and you need to go through the Department of Labor first for some of these immigration pathways, some of these options. Next slide, please. So in the US, the major categories of immigrants are family, which is about 65%, then employment, which is 14%, freedom, I'll call it, which is asylum seekers and refugees. And there's the diversity lottery, which hopefully everybody has signed up for and continues to sign up for, which makes up 4%. Next. In family-based preference categories, there are five major categories. FB1 is for the unmarried sons and daughters of United States citizens. FB2A is spouses and minor children of legal permanent residents. FB2B is unmarried children of legal permanent residents. And then FB3 is married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. And FB4 are the brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens. Next. There are a category of visas available. They're employment-based preference visas. And those are EB1 through EB5. And those are very interesting because especially when referring to Russians or Ukrainians, a lot of Russians, Ukrainians have college degrees, which is very helpful, or masters, which is super helpful. And then on the other side, there's the non-employment, which are the diversity visa, 1 out of 200 to 1 out of 400 that apply or win the lottery, so to speak. And then there's refugees and asylees. And the graph is very small below, but you can see how refugee admission has been changing over the years. It's really a political basketball that's used in our election campaigns. People raise it and they lower it, and they use that as part of their platform, trying to get more votes. You can see where it dips very low during the um, Trump era at the far right, and then it goes back up for Biden. And we don't have new data, but it's going down. It's coming to a screeching halt. The uh, employment-based preferences on the left, I'm not going to go through on this slide because we talk about them a lot, because that's probably your best opportunity. Next slide. So the EB-1 visa is a visa signifying extraordinary ability in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics, and you need substantial national or international recognition. So it's basically for anybody who's the best in their field in their country. So in the past, that has even included a poultry science professor. That's somebody who specializes in chickens and turkeys and ducks. That's their science. And they applied for EB-1 visa and they received an EB-1 visa because they were the best in their field. So there are qualifications. And there's a list of criteria, and you just need to get 3 out of the 10 or so criteria. However, usually people qualify for a lot more, but as I've worked with these in the past and seen a lot of the cases that were lost that are in the appeals database, they're usually somebody who applied with 3 criteria. And you need 3 criteria. So all they have to do is get rid of 1 criteria and you don't win. So it's really important when you go for the EB-1 visa that you try to get as many criteria as possible. That's not the time for the lawyer to be lazy. And a lot of times the same evidence can be used for multiple criteria. I'm going to just briefly go through what these criteria are so you think about these. So if your work has been highlighted in a showcase or an exhibit, so if you're an artist, for example, and your work has been highlighted because it's extraordinary and draws attention, that is one qualification. If you've done scholarly writing or research or other significant contributions in the arts, business, science, or in athletics. So important thing to remember here is in the legal profession, words matter. So when you read something, you you don't need to think that it means what you think it means unless you're a lawyer, right? So for example, a lot of people get hung up on scholarly writing, and they think that means you have to write something and it has to be published in a journal. And the definition of scholarly includes a lot of things. So uh, if you're very good at something, or you're very well versed in an area and you have written something, that could qualify as a scholarly writing. So when somebody's talking to you um, and interviewing you for this EB-1, for example, you really need to tell them everything you've written or everything you've done in your area of knowledge where you have shared that knowledge with somebody else. Third one is being awarded a high honor for excellence nationally or internationally. So, uh, for example, you may think this means that you got a prize and it was a national prize, and that's true. But it's an honor to be published in a journal. And I have included somebody having their work, their research published in a very important journal as being a high honor. So it's important to understand that these definitions don't always mean what you think they mean. They're not that narrow. Performing a leading role in a well-recognized organization. So if it's an organization that's well known back home and you had a leading role, you were the CEO or the COO, or you were the head of research, or whatever role you may have had. If it was leading, this would qualify. Membership in an organization that expects a high level of achievement. So you would think that this means, for example, the Academy of Scientists of Russia. So yes, it means that. But if you look at what that sentence says, membership in an organization that expects a high level of achievement. So first of all, high level of achievement is so ambiguous, so nebulous. What does it mean? It means a lot of things. And then expects. So it's not an organization that demands or that requires a high level of achievement. It expects a high level of achievement. So that's a very loose definition. The words are really important here. The next one is being invited as an expert panelist or an individual to critique others' work. So if you are on a journal's board of editors, that qualifies because you're deciding who gets to get published. We've had professors who were critiquing students' theses for graduating. That's uh, that's where you are on a panel and you're critiquing others' work. So it's important to not constrain yourselves to what you think the definition is. What's important is you give your lawyers as much information as possible and let them do their job to see where you fit. Reaching mainstream success in the performing arts. This is where, you're a dancer, for example. The obvious example would be you are a dancer, or you're a ballet artist, and you have been successful. The shows that you're in are successful. But remember, it's performing arts. So you have to see what would be a performing art, right? Um, the next one is being featured in a trade publication or in the media. It's wide open. An article, they talk about you or talk about your work, for example. If they talk about something you did, it'd be better if they talked about you, but I would still include that because you are your work and it's featured in um, the media, right? The media is everything, by the way. It's the internet, it's the newspapers, it's the magazines, it's whatever whatever type of um, communication device is being used, be it sound or be it writing or be it audio or radio. Publication of your articles in journals, trade publications, that's or in the media. So look at those two. So the first one is you're featured in a trade publication or in the media. And the next one is they publish your articles in journals, trade publications, or the media. They sound a lot alike, but they broke them out into two. And if you qualify for one, you probably qualify for both. And the last one is garnering a salary that's higher than your peers due to your unique expertise. So if you are making a very good salary um, based on your unique expertise, are you making a lot more than others in your field, that same field? So those are the EB1 visa criteria. Next slide, please. So the EB2 visa, I apologize for the small print. This is more for, it's a step below extraordinary. It's exceptional, or frankly, if you have an advanced degree. So if you receive a job offer for work that requires an advanced degree and at least 5 years of work experience, then you could qualify for the EB2 visa. Also, you can have exceptional ability, top 2 or 3%, which is just a number. It doesn't really mean anything. In the science, the arts, the business, you need an employer. There's also an exception to needing employer called the national interest waiver. So you can either have your advanced degree um, uh, or you can be exceptional, or you can be both. Usually people qualify for both, and I like to include both in there as kind of insurance. And then if it's in the national interest of the country, meaning that the work you do is important to the US of A, then you don't need an employer. And this is important because without the national interest waiver, you're going to have to go through the Department of Labor and get a labor certification, and that's going to take time. It's going to take a year, possibly, to get that labor certification. Um, so let's look at the qualifications for the first category. That's an advanced degree, a master's. So if you have the master's, you qualify automatically or above. But if you only have a bachelor's, you need 5 years of post bachelor's degree progressive work experience. Meaning, if your bachelor's was in electrical engineering and you worked in a restaurant for 5 years, that's not going to count. You need to be doing work that is connected with your bachelor's degree. And it's supposed to be progressive, meaning getting more, better pay and getting more responsibility and doing more things in that job. Um, that's category one. Category two is the exceptional ability, and they have criteria which I'll go through briefly. So right below we have you need to prove that you have a degree in your area of exceptional ability, and then you have to have letters from your employers, current and former, showing that you have at least 10 years of full-time experience in your occupation. Um, Third, a license to practice your profession or certification for your profession or occupation. And interestingly, a lot of people in Russia in particular, they don't have this certification, but they're considered an associate employee unless they have a degree, and then they're given more consideration. So in order to do certain jobs, you have to have a degree. And so I would argue that it is the degree that is the certification. Otherwise, you can't practice your job because you don't have that degree. And that's if you just don't belong to, or if you don't have that certification. Um, and again, as an extraordinary ability, you need to show that you've been paid a salary that demonstrates your exceptional ability. So we're not, it's different from extraordinary ability where you have to show you're making a lot more than anybody else. You don't necessarily have to show you're making a lot more than anybody else. You have to show that your salary is based on the fact that you're exceptional. So you're being paid a lot. Um, Another criteria is membership in professional associations. So, um, these aren't associations that require somebody to be an expert. They just, or it requires somebody to be exceptional. They're just engineering associations or medical associations. You belong to them. And it's always good to already be belonging to them before you apply, as opposed to becoming a member 2 days before you send in your application. They will catch that. Um, Recognition for your achievements and significant contributions to your industry or field by your peers, government entities, professional or business organizations. So if you've done something um, for the industry and you've been praised for it, and there have been articles in the paper and somebody said something positive about you, that would qualify. Or if you've just been honored at a banquet or at an organization because of the work you have done, that would qualify. And then there's a catch-all category. Other comparable evidence of eligibility is also acceptable. So that's a catch-all, meaning that maybe you don't meet some of these criteria, but you've done something exceptional that doesn't really fit into any of these criteria. And it's really up to the lawyer to explain how that's comparable evidence of eligibility. Um, and as I said down below, you will need a labor certification unless you can show that it's in the national interest. Um, if exceptional ability, or if you're a certain professional nurse or physical therapist. So there are some categories of workout jobs out there which are in short supply. So you won't actually need to get labor certification from the Department of Labor. You just fill out the form that the Department of Labor should fill out. You send it in, and it's USCIS that does a certification. It's a lot faster. And that's for certain types of jobs. So just the national interest waiver. This is really kind of a legal ground for your lawyer to explain why you qualify. But basically, you don't need a labor certification if it's in the national interest. And the 3 points below explain very not very clearly what this means. There are law cases, court cases that explain exactly what it means. But basically, um, the proposed endeavor, which is your job that you're going to get, or what you want to do, because you don't actually need a job when it's a national interest waiver, um, is going to have substantial merit, means it's worthy and it's important, um, and it's worth the country allowing you to come and do it because it's good for the country, and it's nationally important. So that doesn't mean it has to be important for the entire United States, but if you are doing something that lowers poverty in a certain area, that is a national problem, poverty, and so it could qualify. But this is really something that you will have to speak to your lawyer about to see if it qualifies into um, that specific rule. Number two, you're well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor. So it has to be obvious from your application, from your resume, from your degree, from your experience that you can actually do what you say you're going to do. Um, Otherwise, they're going to say you can't possibly pull this off and be successful in what you're proposing. And number three, is on balance, it would be beneficial to the U.S. to waive the requirements of a job offer and thus the labor certification. So what that means is this is going to help the United States, and there aren't a lot of people that can do, for example, what you're proposing because the job market's so tight. So it makes sense for you to for them to waive the requirements of a job offer so you can start work as soon as possible. That's one explanation of that. Um, so that's the EB2 visa. I've done a substantial amount of work with EB1 and EB2. That's why I dwell on them. I think a lot of people qualify and they don't realize it. And that's why I want to spend a little more time on that today. Next slide. So EB3 visa is the three categories are for skilled workers, professionals, and unskilled workers. And there's evidence for each one of these. These are not extraordinary or exceptional, and they all require a labor certification. So you're going to have a job offer, and the company is going to go through the Department of Labor certification process to get your labor certification, and it's going to take some time to do. So for skilled workers, you need to have a skill that is that require or a skill or rather a job that requires at least 2 years of job experience in order to do that job, right? So if you're going to be working at a restaurant and you're going to be in the back cooking, it probably is not a skilled worker. Um, Professionals, the next category. You must show you have a bachelor's degree or the foreign equivalent, um, and you have to be doing work which qualified workers are not, and there are not qualified workers available in the US. Education and experience may not be substituted for a baccalaureate degree. You must meet other requirements specified on the labor certification. So once they issue the labor certification, they're going to they may put some qualifiers in there, and you have to be able to qualify according to what the Department of Labor has said. And now unskilled workers. So you have to demonstrate the ability to perform unskilled labor, which requires less than 2 years training, and that it's not temporary or seasonal in nature, right? So those are H1A and other types of seasonal work, um, or H2B. And you have to be doing work for which qualified workers are not available in the United States. Next slide. Um, so this is just the U.S. Department of Labor certification. 388 days was how long it took. You can't file the actual visa application before the DOL gives you your labor certification. And these petitions need to be accompanied by this labor certification made by the Department of Labor. These take a lot longer than the other categories. Next slide. There is EB4 visas, which I don't want to say it's a catch-all because it's not. It's just some different visas that there's not a lot of demand. That's for religious workers, broadcasters. I'm not going to read through all these because they are kind of odd. Non-citizens who have supplied information concerning a criminal organization or enterprise or a terrorist organization. These are S non-immigrants. Next slide. EB5. I think this needs to be updated in terms of the dollar amount, but this is that famous millionaire visa. You have to invest $900,000 or $1.8 million. So there are certain areas of the United States where employment is very high, unemployment is very high, and so you can invest less there. And other areas where unemployment is not high, and therefore you have to invest a lot more. Next. So the perm labor certification, which you'll need to do for EB3 or EB2 if it's not an NIW, is where you test the U.S. labor market. You do advertising. It's a whole process where you have to follow certain rules and you have to document all the advertising, you being the employer. You have to get a prevailing wage determination, meaning the DOL is going to say this is how much you have to pay these persons. Then you file a perm application, and then after the perm is approved, you file the I-140. And then after the I-140 is approved, you file the I-45 adjustment of status, assuming that there's a visa available. Next. So you're here, let's say you're in the United States. How do you get a green card? So for there's no legal pathway to a green card for U4U parolees. These are for the Ukrainians without consular processing. Yeah, the U4U was not a great visa because it really just kept people safe, but it didn't really give them pathways to a green card itself. What you could do is apply for TPS, which gave you temporary lawful status, and then get a travel authorization, travel abroad, return while your TPS is still valid. And this is still actually possible because TPS is still valid for those who have it. And then you're considered inspected and admitted by CBP. And that's what you need to do an adjustment of status. You have to be inspected and admitted by CBP, which is a specific term for people that come across the border. They're inspected, questions are asked, and therefore they can do an adjustment of status from one legal status to the other. For U4U, for humanitarian, these humanitarian parole visas, they didn't ask you anything. I mean, you could have committed crimes. They didn't ask you. So you're not inspected and paroled. Another way is apply for a family or work-based visa, the ones we talked about, with adjustment of status. And then I just want to say this was made before April 19th. So he kind of extended TPS and made it until 2026. And I think he hasn't not let's see, he's still in a holding pattern on what he's going to do about Ukrainians in particular in terms of the U4U and the TPS. They've stopped processing a lot of the work applications and other types of applications on the humanitarian parole. But I personally think something is going to move in the future on this. I think he's probably changing his mind, which he's very good at. So I don't want to raise hopes, but I want you to just, be aware that that's a possibility. Next slide. The next way to get a green card is to apply for asylum. Now, there's a 1 year application deadline exception. So you're supposed to apply for asylum within a year after you arrive here. And what what this administration probably didn't realize is when they're canceling everybody's TPS and they have been here for 10 years, you think, oh, they have no options. Well, actually, that is an exception. If you have your status canceled, that's a change in circumstances, and you can now apply for asylum, even though you've been here for 5 years, for example, because that's one of the exceptions. Um, so if you're a case of an applicant who had been included as a dependent, the child, in another pending asylum application, um, in somebody died or divorced or somebody turned 21, then you can also apply for asylum afterwards. There are other exceptions. There's a lot of them. And so each case really needs individual analysis. And then, of course, you have to win your asylum case. Um, so Russians have pretty good asylum passage rates, but that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily win your asylum case. But there are other nationalities that they just don't approve, that they're not approving any of them. So I think the Russians, last time I saw, had one of the highest asylum cases. I think Ukrainians could apply for asylum, and I know some that have, and I've encouraged them to. So you may read on Facebook that Ukrainians can't apply for asylum, or there's not good reasons for them to apply for asylum. I just don't believe that. I disagree. Next slide. So there's other visas to stay in the U.S. One is the E2 treaty trader visa. I know the Ukrainians have one. I don't remember if Russia has one, but there's no adjustment of status, right? Basically, you open a business, you invest a certain amount of money, a substantial sum, and then you file an I-129, and there's a business plan, and you're going to hire people, and there are other rules, but you can stay in the United States, actually indefinitely, with this E2 treaty trader visa because you have a business and you can just stay here. You won't get a green card, but at least you can stay in the United States and work on other pathways. There's also an O1 visa. It's dual intent. So O1 visa is like the EB1, but it's not, you can't get a green card from it, but you can stay in the United States. The first application gets you here for 3 years, and then you just renew it every year. But it's basically the same qualifications as the EB1. Then there's the H-1B where the company hires you and you go through the lottery. If it's a nonprofit that hires you, they don't have to do the lottery in general. Then there's the L1. If there's a company overseas that has a branch in the US, they can bring you over to the US to work in their US branch because you're going to be training employees of the US and sharing knowledge of that company to workers in the US. And then there's other types of visas like the student F1 student visa, you go back to school. The U visa, if you were a victim of a crime in the US and you help law enforcement, has to be on a specific list of crimes. So these are serious crimes. T, if you are a victim of human trafficking. And then there's the R1 non-immigrant religious workers. Next slide, please. And that is it. And I'll turn it back over to Manus for any questions or discussions.
Yeah, actually, I did have a question for you. I want to kick off the question. Um, I know a lot of local in the Philadelphia area, in that area. We have a lot of Ukrainians and Russians and stuff, whatnot. They're actually driving trucks. In fact, I've seen a truck with a advertisement for an employment written in the Russian Cyrillic alphabet. Would that qualify if they got a labor certification for the E3?
Yeah, I mean it's a truck driver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just have to go through the labor process and make sure there's there has to be a shortage of workers. So, driving a truck, if this is a commercial truck, right, where you need a CDL license,
Yes,
I'm not sure if that's skilled or unskilled, quite frankly.
yeah,
But I think that would be that's interesting. Uh, that could be an EB3.
okay,
Yeah. Well,
all right. All right, and with that, let's open it up and
Yep, everybody has the ability to unmute and if you wish to turn on your video. So question and answers are open for Thomas and Manus. We have about 20 minutes, so ask away. You can also type your chat in the box if you don't feel like talking.
Or if you
and
want to speak in Russian, I think Alexandra can take care of it from there.
yes,
Absolutely, we do have Russian speakers on the line as well.
Maybe Alexandra could explain that in Russian.
Yeah, Alexandra?
Yeah, of course, если кто-то хочет задать вопросы по этим типам визы дополнительно по-русски, то можете тоже задавать, мы с удовольствием ответим.
and I also think we also have Marina here, and Marina, if it's this Marina I'm thinking of, it's the Marina who's the executive director of
I'll try.
NWA.
I'm trying to unmute myself. Okay. First
Ah.
of all, I'm very grateful to you. I see some familiar names, people who joined the webinar. Unfortunately, not so many. We gave information for much more people. But I would like that it would be a nice idea if you can share the slides and we will introduce this information through our ESL classes and other presentations.
Good idea.
Is it possible, Thomas?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to. I'll let Manus go from there. He has a
Okay.
I believe you can also do get the recording of this, and that will be Eric's purview.
Yes, we will make it, we will make the recording available to the attendees. I will send out an email afterwards, and if Thomas
Excellent.
agrees, I will attach the slides.
Absolutely, yeah. Please do.
Okay. And,
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Would you like to share your story? Can we solve any problems? English, Russian, French?
I would
Creole.
like to point out to Alexandra or Tamara, if she's still online, that Natalia sent in a chat. So if you can open up that, and she's the one who has that mini consultation with Thomas. So we
Okay.
can make arrangements to get that
Yeah.
done.
Я извиняюсь, а я могу на русском задать вопрос?
The question is
Да.
about asking in Russian. Да, конечно.
Я хотела бы спросить, у меня такой вопрос. Получается, допустим, моя ситуация, что я приехала по ЮФОЮ с Украины, с города Мариуполя. Я пережила 20 дней оккупации со своим 9-летним ребенком, мужем и мамой 70 лет. Мы выезжали, наш город испытал большую гуманитарную катастрофу и тяжелые условия. Могу ли я подаваться на политическое убежище? Насколько будет силен этот кейс?
The question is if there were U4U Вы сказали U4U, да, по этой
Да, на
визе?
данный момент я по ЮФОЮ и в ожидании TPS
Ага.
статуса.
U4U waiting for status, and it was fleeing from Mariupol with a family from из военных, да? Мгм.
Да, город, который...
You wanna help?
Не-не-не, еще раз ситуацию вашу просто скажите.
Я, получается, прибыла с города Мариуполя, и как бы мой город, я прожила
Мгм.
20 дней оккупации, 20 дней своей семьи прожила в подвале, получается. Я
Well,
не хотела-
20 days of
Alexandra?
occupation. Mhm.
Alexander, I'm
And
just gonna ask you to pause for a second. We have, my wife is listening in, and she is actually a certified interpreter
Okay.
for Ukrainian and Russian. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Tanya, go ahead.
Nice to meet you all. Доброго дня всем. Добрый день всем. So the question is, I'm from Mariupol. I'm here in the United States on U4U program. And I've been through 20 days of occupation in Mariupol, and it's actually humanitarian catastrophe. We've been through a lot. We had to flee with my husband, my child, my mom. So there was disaster. So I'm here on the U4U, and due to all these circumstances, put it all together, am I eligible for a political asylum? Is my case strong enough for political asylum?
So yeah, I don't, okay, so I don't think your case is frivolous, which is important, meaning it's not a necessarily a weak case, but we need to have more details about, what happened. So are you, did you lose, I guess you lost, everybody lost everything in Mariupol, right?
Тобто ви втратили дуже багато в Маріуполі, или потеряли много в Мариуполе. Для того, чтобы поделить, нам нужно больше деталей по вашему делу.
Ну, непосредственно мы как бы, получается, 20 дней были в подвале. У меня мама инсулинозависима, у нас не было ни воды, ни света. Там была гуманитарная катастрофа, постоянные обстрелы. Очень тяжело. И, получается, есть фильм «20 дней Мариуполя», получивший Оскар в Америке также. Там, ну, как бы фрагмент есть, как бы, как моя мама спускается в этом подвале, терраспорт. Мы находились в известном, как бы, ну, как бы на мир убежище, прожили там. Как бы какие доказательства. Вот. Я просто знаю, что как бы война не является как бы прямым просить политубежище. Но могу ли я, что я спасала как жизнь своему ребенку, 9-летнему маме, 70 лет, которая инсулинозависима, нам приходилось инсулин прятать в дымоходе,
Can I use
потому
the
что
fact that I spent 20 days in the shelter in the city that was shelled severely? There is an even documentary about Mariupol, about this very well known around the world shelter that I spent there 20 days saving my family, my child, my mom, who's insulin dependent. So can it be like proof of what we've been through, and can it be used to as an evidence?
So what's asylum for? And this is the problem, is that, it's a war. So a lot of people think that because it's a war, it's not really a cause for asylum. I'm going to talk in a few sentences and then let you translate.
Многие думают, что вот война может быть причиной, на самом деле война как причина для политического убежища не совсем может быть причиной.
So here's what I would argue, and I don't want to offend anybody's political views, but Putin has stated very clearly that Ukraine as a culture and as a language does not exist.
Я никого не хочу обидеть, но Путин заявил, что Украина как страна и как культурное общество не может существовать.
And he has tried to destroy as much as possible of Ukrainian culture. Well, Mariupol was in my opinion, emblematic of Ukrainian culture, and he destroyed it because it was a symbol of Ukrainian culture.
И он хочет уничтожить как можно больше Украины, украинцев, украинской культуры. И достаточно много уже уничтожает.
So, you know, the fact that you went through the traumatic experiences, I would say, you know, the experiences themselves are just an indication of what he's trying to do. By themselves, it's not a big enough argument, oddly enough. What you have to argue is because you're Ukrainian and because you live in Ukraine and because you lived in Mariupol, which is a symbol of Ukrainian culture, he destroyed it and he wants to continue to destroy anything that's Ukrainian.
И сам факт того, что, как ни странно, вы прошли через все вот эти ужасы войны, через испытания, не может быть таким фактом, который может быть в подтверждении вот этого. Единственное, что можно, о чем можно говорить, о том, что продолжается уничтожение, он хочет уничтожить, как уже было сказано, Украину, украинцев, украинскую культуру.
So even if you are ethnically Russian and in Ukraine, I would argue that Ukrainianism is imputed to you. As far as Putin is concerned, everybody's Ukrainian there because he is bombing indiscriminately Ukraine.
И даже если вы русская, но все равно русского происхождения или находитесь в Украине, находились в Украине, то есть это не имеет значения, потому что идет уничтожение, он бомбит всех, то есть именно территорию Украины, Украину без разбора, кто там русский или не русский.
So you know, with asylum law, you don't even have to be what the person thinks you are to be oppressed, to be attacked, and for you to have fear. You just have to be in a situation where the person doing the attacking and the persecution thinks that you are what he wants to attack.
То есть вы можете быть не совсем тем человеком, которого вы представляете, но можете представить как человеком, который подвергается атаке, который подвержен атаке и продолжает подвергаться атаке.
So now you were here for you. I don't know when your you for you runs out, but once your status runs out, I think you should immediately apply for asylum, right?
И я не знаю, когда у вас заканчивается U4U, но как только будет заканчиваться или закончится, вы должны подать на убежище.
And I think the arguments are that you belong to an ethnicity that Putin wants to eradicate, or Putin thinks you belong to an ethnicity that Putin wants to eradicate. I mean, he's been very clear. I'm kind of confused as to why people don't think that being Ukrainian is not a reason to apply for asylum, because he obviously he's trying to kill as many Ukrainians as possible.
Потому что вы можете подавать на убежище, потому что вы принадлежите к той нации, к тем людям, стране, которую он уничтожает сейчас и хочет уничтожать, хочет продолжать уничтожать, как он заявил. Я честно говоря, не понимаю, почему люди не считают, что если они украинцы, считают, что если они украинцы, то не могут подавать на убежище. То есть наоборот.
So basically you need a good lawyer to explain this type of reasoning. It's a little bit sophisticated and clearly it's not obvious, because some lawyers are saying that, no, you can't do asylum because it's a war. No, that's just, if he were shooting rockets on Ukraine and Ukraine were shooting rockets on Russia, and he just kept his mouth shut, and he said that Ukraine is a threat to Russian sovereignty, okay, you'd be in trouble. But he hasn't. He has said that Ukraine doesn't exist. Ukrainian culture doesn't exist. That's what he said.
Да, и дело в том, что это не просто нужен хороший адвокат, который бы все это именно тщательно объяснил и вот показал именно в таком свете, что продолжается война, что летят ракеты, и как Путин сказал, что Украина не существует, Украина не должна существовать, не существует.
It's all about the story that the lawyer is going to write in your asylum application.
Вот это та история, это описание, которое адвокат должен написать, представить в вашем деле, ходатайстве на убежище.
Спасибо большое.
Thank
А,
you so much.
я хотела еще спросить, то, что город на данный момент находится в оккупации, это как-то влияет, не влияет, или, ну, вот получается, Украина сейчас находится, какая-то часть городов, она оккупирована, допустим, как Мариуполь.
Mhm. And the fact that the city now is occupied, an occupation cannot play a role in the application for asylum, as like many cities, part of Ukraine is now in
Well, yeah,
occupation.
you can't go back there, obviously. So what somebody would say is, well, you can go to Lviv, right? You're safe in Lviv. You show a map of every city that's been hit by Russian rockets. I mean, that to me tells you no, you can't go back.
Да, ну да, и то, что вы еще, еще уже не можете возвращаться в свой город, вернуться в город, потому что постоянно идет в оккупации, постоянно война, и, например, во Львов еще могут вернуться, но во многие города они подвергаются обстрелам.
Yeah. I would like to, Natalia, definitely you want to be in touch with us, and we'll get you set up for a more private consultation with Thomas, or we actually have another attorney who speaks Russian, so we can have him do that, or we'll make sure we have a good interpreter available to you.
Наталья вас звать, правильно?
Да.
Наталья, ну, очевидно, что хотелось бы, чтобы вы были с нами на связи, и мы сможем вам помочь устроить личную встречу с одним из наших адвокатов. У нас есть один адвокат, который говорит по-русски, или же чтобы был переводчик для вас, хороший переводчик, чтобы все можно было понять, объяснить, сказать.
Я буду очень благодарна. Большое спасибо.
Я буду, I will be very thankful.
Yes.
That's great. And
розмовляти, можемо українською.
we see that, Natalia, you did purchase the 15-minute consultation, so we will be sure to set that up with you. I see we have another question coming in from Milya. Do you see that in the chat, Thomas?
I
Or should
do.
I read it?
I just read it,
20 минут
and
частной консультации еще мы с вами проведем.
right.
Спасибо.
So
Thank you.
you'll love my answer. I used to remember what the answer was, but it's been a while because this became an issue back in April. And when
So for
everybody,
the recording purposes, let's repeat the question.
okay. I'm going to just read it. Excuse me, my question is not directly about visas, but maybe you can help. I'm currently under humanitarian parole and my work permit expired 90 days ago. I've applied for a renewal, but haven't received the new EAD yet. Am I allowed to continue working as self-employed while I wait for the new card? Sorry if this is not the right place to ask. Thank you for your help. It is the right place to ask, and you're welcome. So what I'll do is, if you agree, Milya, rather than say yes or no right now, because it's so fluid, I'm going to go back and look at my notes, do the research, and I'll get you a definitive answer. Because you don't want to be working if you're not allowed to. Does Milya understand me?
I don't know.
Did that make sense, Milya?
You can either. She's
So-
still online.
Is there,
Okay.
she wrote
Ah.
back in, yeah, someone else can translate that.
Okay. Diane.
Cannot open mic.
She cannot open her mic, but she did hear. And I will forward the answer to you once Thomas does his research, but I'm just kind of curious as to what you've been doing for the last 90 days.
I know that U4U is a little different. So
Yeah.
with
Okay.
TPS, they kind of extended it, but with U4U, I have to double check.
Okay. All right.
So everybody should be able to turn on your mic. There are two ways to unmute, either by clicking on audio or by holding the space bar, just like a radio. If you're holding the space bar, you can talk whilst you're on mute. So we have about 5 minutes left in this session. Probably time for one or two more questions if somebody has any.
Okay.
Going once, going twice. Okay, well, Manus, any closing messages before we kick the recording closed?
I would say that one, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want you to understand that this is also going to be a monthly occurrence. So we will have one next month. I don't know. Did we set a date for that?
Not yet, but we
Okay.
will shortly. Everyone,
Yeah.
if you can subscribe, go to our website. We'll put that in the chat, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, and that'll list all of our upcoming events. And you can also
Yeah.
follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms.
Yes. And yes, we do even have our own YouTube channel now. So, you know, you can keep abreast, keep up to date with what's going on with that. We'll upload at least once a week on that. And we will be in touch with everyone, you know, by the emails and whatever. We'll let you know when the next one is. And those specific questions, I think Amelia had one and Natalia had one. We will definitely get that information to you. And if anybody else has a specific question, please feel free. Yeah, we want to see everybody safe. And we want to see everybody get here and stay here. So with that, good night.